Before creation itself, there were 6 singularities, forged into infinity stones.
Hey everybody, it's Charlie. Hopefully you've had a chance to see Infinity War once or twice by now. This is going to be my video explaining how the Soul Gem works and why the Thanos theory, Thanos theory ended up being correct, just not in the way that everyone expected. So obviously, spoiler warning, if you haven't seen Infinity War yet, there's a new round of the Infinity Gauntlet giveaway too that I'll explain at the end of the video. Most of you are probably familiar with it, but if you've never heard of the Thanos theory of the location of the Infinity Stones, that was mostly what it referred to, like where the stones popped up. It started to percolate after Phase 2, after we'd seen a couple of stones. People were like, wait a minute, T for Tesseract, A for Aether, N for Necklace of the Time Stone, O for the Orb of the Power Stone, S for the Scepter of the Mind Stone. So for the longest time, people were wondering what H meant. And this theory actually started before Doctor Strange, so we didn't know that N was necklace. People were like, wait a minute, the Marvel movies are continuing to verify this theory. So everyone was just expecting that H would pan out as something like Heimdall. But after Thor Ragnarok, it was confirmed no Soul Gem anywhere to be found. We got the Black Panther and people were like, okay, wait a minute, maybe it's going to be heart-shaped herb, maybe it's going to be the heart tree of Wakanda. Then Ryan Coogler came out and was like, I love the Infinity Stones. He's a huge lifelong comic book fan, just like James Gunn. But he was like, we already had vibranium, we felt like that was special enough. So obviously for Infinity War, they fabricated a completely new backstory for the Soul Stone in the Marvel Cinematic Universe to make it part of the emotional through line for Thanos, as part of that big twist with Gamora, to prove that Thanos wasn't just a mustache-twirling villain, he was capable of loving something. They wanted to make you feel that sacrifice in the price that he would pay. So we'll get to the mechanics of the Soul Stone in a second, because it's a big hat tip for what's going to be happening during Avengers 4, a sacrifice that the Avengers will eventually have to make to wield it. But if you're not a big comic book reader, the powers of the Soul Stone have to do with controlling souls, as the name implies. Pretty easy slam dunk there. It allows the person who wields it to capture the souls of people, preserving life after death. That's a really important idea. It also has the ability to devolve living beings, which is where you get to the Ash people at the end of Infinity War. So when people are turning to ash, that's Thanos using the powers of the Soul Stone, amplified when used in conjunction with the Power Stone, the Space Stone, the Reality Stone, and the Mind Stone. So remember, there's a stacking bonus from using the stones together. So for instance, he uses the Time Stone to turn Vision back so that he can take the Mind Stone from him before he exploded. But Thanos could actually roll time back or forwards for the entire universe if he used the Time Stone with all the other stones together. So I know there's a lot of separate questions about how the Avengers are going to fix everything and bring all those Ash people back, because I do think that all the Ash people will come back. I just don't think it's going to be the way that people expect. But even though the stone was on Vormir, the reason why the Thanos theory is still correct, there's actually 3 reasons why it's still correct. 1, the planet Vormir, where they find it, is inside the Hell-Gentar system, which is inside Kree-controlled space. Remember that for Red Skull stuff, Avengers 4, Captain Marvel. That'll come back around later when we talk about the history of Red Skull after he got ported into space by the Space Stone. Like, what was he doing that whole time? He said he was searching for stones in a part of the galaxy where Captain Marvel is popping up. But number 2, you could also say that H stands for Hydra, since Red Skull is the guardian of the Soul Stone. Now they're sort of combining a couple different ideas here when he pops up, because he's meant to represent the aspect of death, but he's also the guardian of the Soul Stone, as if the Soul Stone captured his soul and he's now prisoner to it. But if you were wondering, Lady Death doesn't appear anywhere in the Infinity War movie. They confirmed that last week before the movie came out. They're like, we didn't use her as a character. So Red Skull is the closest thing that you get to the aspect of death. But the H of the Thanos theory also applies to the mechanics of the Soul Gem in the price that you have to pay. You have to give your heart to it, so to speak. Like Thanos has to give something that he loves, something that he cares about. Trading a soul for a soul. Remember, there's a big Avengers line, we don't trade lives. That'll come back around during Avengers 4 too. But Thanos trades it Gamora's soul in order to wield it, which is why, at the end of the movie, when he goes into that special place, I think that that is the soul world. Gamora will come back during Avengers 4, even though it seems like she died. Like, they wanted that big emotional moment, they wanted you to feel it, so they're not going to talk about it for a long time. But the actress, Zoe Saldana, did an interview where she said she was going back to film scenes for Avengers 4.
What can you tell us if you're in Infinity
We're
War?
in the middle of it. I think that the Guardians just shot their part when it comes to Infinity Wars, like the first part, and we all have to go back for Gauntlet later this year.
Most people saw that and they were thinking more about what the title of Avengers 4 would be, not the fact that she would have died during Avengers 3, but still come back during Avengers 4. So 2 reasons why that interview is important. But when Red Skull tells Thanos that there's a certain wisdom that comes with wielding the Soul Stone properly, he's talking about the price you have to pay. Like when little Gamora asks him inside the Soul World, "Did you do it? Was it worth the price?" He looks at her sadly and says, "Yes, little one." I don't think he totally understands where he is. He might comprehend it. But think about it this way. The soul world contains the souls of certain people. Now, it might contain the souls of all the ashed people too. That wasn't immediately evident from that Thanos scene, but it is a logical explanation, and it is how the gem works in the comics. So you can use some of the comic book explainer, but obviously they've changed the plot of the comics quite a bit. But what happens when someone tries to wield the gauntlet incorrectly? So the stones work together, but in order to wield the soul stone, you have to sacrifice something you love. You have to feed it a soul. So what if somebody just put the gauntlet on and tried to fix everything? Usually what happens in the comics is either one of the stones will crack, it'll break, like it'll kind of melted at the end of Infinity War. Not completely broken, but it looks like Thanos is going to have to wait a little while before he uses it again. But also the stones can scatter themselves across the cosmos. But here's where we get into Avengers 4 territory. How do the Avengers fix everything? Do they go back in time? Do they just use the gauntlet to wish everything back? Because you could do that too. But the problem now is that the gauntlet looks like it's damaged. And I've talked about why I think that Iron Man is going to be the one to wear the gauntlet just because of that parallel arc that they put him and Thanos on. He respects him. Captain America is somebody who's also worn the gauntlet in the comics. Spider-Man has even had the gauntlet, but he's been turned to ash, so he's probably not going to be a really big character during Avengers 4. Think about who's still alive at the end of the movie and who had the most emotional moments with Thanos, aside from Gamora. So Iron Man probably had the biggest scene with him. There were a couple really important gem-related scenes during Infinity War. One, there was Shuri examining the power of the Mind Stone. She did some work, but obviously she didn't finish with Vision. He ended up dying anyway. That'll come back around. There are a couple of characters like Ant-Man and the Wasp that are going to be going into the quantum realm during their movie. What can you do with the Infinity Stones? You could actually travel inside them. So when they come back, their powers will also be useful for examining what's going on inside the gems. Then there's the way the movie leaves Thanos at the end of Avengers 4, because even if his arc is done, you have to have some way to wrap him up so that he's not a loose thread just traveling through the galaxy. If he's alive at the end of Avengers 4, he could always be a threat and come back, so you have to resolve that in some way. The easiest way to deal with him is to trap him for all eternity inside the soul world. The only way to do that would be if Gamora is the one to wield the Infinity Gauntlet during Avengers 4. So alternate theory, the only way they completely deal with Thanos henceforth is to have Gamora come out of the soul world somehow, like Ant-Man goes into the quantum realm during Ant-Man and the Wasp. What if they travel into the Soul Stone to bring her back out? But let me know in the comments, how do you think they rescue Gamora from the soul world, and what do they do with Thanos at the end? Because at the end of comic book Infinity Gauntlet, Thanos became part of the Infinity Watch. He kind of went from being a villain to being more of an anti-hero type person. So if Thanos doesn't do that at the end of Avengers 4, they have to do something to resolve him, because I don't think they bring that character back during Phase 4, Phase 5, maybe not even during Phase 6. Like however many phases they're going to make, I think that Thanos isn't going to come back for a long time. But there'll be a whole bunch more Infinity War posting in the next week. Obviously, Captain Marvel stuff. I'll do a new Red Skull video sometime soon after more people have a chance to see the movie. It's still a little spoilery, so I'm not going to put him on the thumbnail for this video, even though I probably should. But there's a new round of that Infinity Gauntlet giveaway. All you have to do to enter is be a subscriber, leave a comment on the video. Click here for my full review of the movie, and click here for my post-credits scene video. Thank you so much for watching. Everybody stay awesome. I'll see you guys tonight.